We're back here, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Now joining us on the hotline, he's kind enough to give us a few minutes. That's SportsCenter anchor and Temple University alum, and that's Kevin Negandhi. Kevin, Zach Gelb here, WHIP Radio on Temple's campus. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Zach, I'm really happy to be a part of this. I know you and I have talked about it a couple times through the years, so I'm glad to finally join you on the broadcast.
Great to have you on, and I'm a Patriots fan, so last night was tough for me, but the best part of my Monday night was actually seeing your face on television and that new commercial with Victor Cruz. How fun was that to shoot?
That was a lot of fun. I know Victor from previous interviews, so he's a good guy. Jimmy Graham, who's also in the commercial, we have similar, we come from the same agency with CAA, so we know similar people. And earlier that day, I shot the other commercial that came out in August that was in the new SportsCenter studio. Actually, that came out in July, so we shot that morning, and then that afternoon we shot the one where we do the anchor draft. So we had a good time that day, and those guys had a lot of fun watching me fall 15 times in a row to get the right fall reaction.
Well, as Victor Cruz points out, you do have good desk presence, and according to your Facebook, your children, Brandon and Noah, have good Temple presence, as Brandon's 3-0, watching the Temple live in person, and Noah's 1-0. Has Kevin Clark given you free tickets? Just say, hey, get Brandon and Noah out to as much games as possible?
Yeah. But I talked to Kevin the night before the game, and I told him my son was there 2 years ago. He was 5 months old when we and my second son, who's 6 months, was catching his first Temple game, and I was just like, he's got to keep the tradition. And Kevin and I had a good laugh about it. So it's been good. Again, my first son's 3-0 at Temple events, 2-0 at football games, and 1-0 with the basketball team when we knocked off and upset VCU, a top 25 team, on the home court. I think it was 2 seasons ago. So it's been a good run so far for the Negandhi boys.
No question about that. And as you mentioned, you did address the team before the game up against UConn, where they had that victory 36-10. What did you tell the Temple football team when you got a chance to talk to them?
I like to keep that in-house, indoors. The president of the school was there. He was fantastic, and he got the chance to have an up-close, being part of the audience. It's very cool that you can address the president as well as these young 18 to 22-year-old men who represent Temple. And my message is simple. Just, hey, understand that you guys represent us, all of us that watch the game, and whatever we do, we represent you. And that one thing that we need to do is be consistent every week. Consistent out on the field, consistent with what we do in the classroom, and we have a responsibility to carry ourselves a certain way as Temple graduates as well as Temple students. And I shared a few stories of what I went through, and I think the great thing about Temple, and I'm very proud of to be an alum, is that we understand what real life is. We don't live. We live in the city. We don't live on this isolated world that's separated from reality. And I think that when you talk to kids that go to Temple, they understand that every day is a real life experience that no one can take away from us. And I kept on emphasizing that to them. That helped me immensely when I got out in the real world, because I already was ahead of everybody else.
And Matt Rule, the head football coach of the Temple Owls, he understands that Temple culture because he was here when Al Golden was the head coach before he went south to Miami, and then eventually Steve Addazio took over. Rule spent some time on that staff before spending a year away from Temple University. It really is amazing, though, how much a difference a year makes, and Matt finally gets a full year to implement this system, and it's really paying off on the field as he's totally changed the culture and the feel of this football program on campus.
Zach, you're totally right, and I think a lot of people forget. Listen, when there is a transition from 3 different coaches in a span of less than 5 years, you're going to get different players that fit certain styles. A coach on the college level can't really be judged until, I think, his 3rd season, because he he needs to have at least 2 classes in. Two of his type of players, 2 genuine classes. And you're seeing that already pay off with Matt, with his first class coming in. I think we're going to see the adjustments. We're going to see the progress. We're going to see the maturity. I mean, there's only 5 seniors on this football team. So you're going to see a different team in a year. You're going to see a dramatically different team in 2 years. And we're on the up and up. And Matt knows that. I've talked to Matt about it on several occasions, where we were last year to get his type of players to where we are now, fit his system and his belief. We're ascending, and that's a good thing for the program.
The biggest change, though, from a year ago to now, because we saw those heartbreaking losses last year where the defense couldn't get off the field up against a UCF or up against a Rutgers, where you had Leonte Carew catch that remarkable reception in the right side of the end zone, has been the change of this defense. And you got to give some credit to Phil Snow in addition to Matt Rule, because through 4 games, this defense, Kevin, as you know it, 5 touchdowns, and they've been very impressive on the field, and they have that intensity, that swagger, and the words Temple tough that you always hear, and they're echoing it on the field.
Yeah, I think secondary was a big concern and a big focus last year after what we saw. And, one thing, he's brought in players. They're young players. They're getting immediate playing time. That's a great thing that any coach can sell to a high school kid. Hey, you want to play, you're going to play here immediately. In this conference at a D1 level. And one of the things I noticed from last year that really stood out, you brought up the UCF kid. They lost some really bad games. When I say bad, emotionally bad games. Games that could really, really down the road hurt a team and they could give up. I never once felt like the team ever gave up. And I told them that Friday night that made me really proud, man, because the record didn't indicate what we saw on the field. They lost some games, but each week they came back out and they busted their butt. And I was really proud of that. And that stuff can't be measured. It is often spoken about, but you can't measure that kind of stuff. And then once you get the right talent to match up with that competitiveness, you're going to see the results. And right now we're seeing it off to a very good start. But, like I said, we got to be good every week. You can't be great one week and then stink it up the following week. We got to raise the expectations that every week what is expected is what is delivered.
Kevin Negandhi, kind enough to give us a few minutes here, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Zach Gelb here with you for the main event via iHeartRadio. Kevin, let's get to the other side of the ball, the offense. We know P.J. Walker, the sophomore quarterback from Elizabeth High School, is the real deal, but something just isn't clicking with that offense in the first half through 4 games. What adjustments could they make offensively in that first half to try to generate them a better start in these football games?
I think finding a rhythm, and that could be short passes. I know sometimes the home run ball can be intoxicating, or a busted play where PJ can respond and react. I think we need to have a consistent run game, but at the same time, when you have a consistent short passing game, it'll set up a long look down the field, and it just takes time. PJ is. That one throw on the touchdown, and I tweeted out, it's just scratching the surface on how good this kid can be. But let's not forget, he's not even halfway through his sophomore season. So it's just patience and time. If you look across the board at any college football program, usually the impact you see where a college quarterback gets it is towards the back end of their sophomore season. So I just think it's just repetition and time. And I think PJ understands what is needed and what's required. If you get short passes, you build the confidence, it's going to allow you to do more things to open things up down the field.
The confidence is the one thing that I think will eventually come because, like you mentioned, he's only a sophomore quarterback, and especially you have a lot of new offensive linemen rotating in this year. In addition to, you don't have Robbie Anderson or Ryan Alderman walking back through the doors anytime soon. And one player he does look like he has that relationship with is Jalen Fitzpatrick, the senior wide receiver, as he has a touchdown in 4 games. He's been having a nice real season for this football team.
I love Jalen. When Jalen came to the campus, I immediately thought, okay, he's going to be he's not Percy Harvin, but he's going to bring us certain things that Percy could with Adazio's offense. I've always thought Jalen a Swiss Army knife that can do a lot of things physically. He's extremely talented. And good things happen when you get him the ball. So even in the short space, if you can get him the ball on a screen, he's going to move the football down the field 5-6 yards a clip. And that's a good thing that PJ and Jalen are on the same page, because that growth needs to continue. And any quarterback that is learning a system and growing and getting comfortable needs some type of veteran presence and sure hands. And you're going to get that from Jalen.
Kevin Negandhi joins us right now. Zach Gelb here with you, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Kevin, let's get to the professional football team here in town, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you weren't happy with the play calling on Sunday up against the 49ers, and neither was I. I would have to imagine, though, Chip Kelly really has to be scratching himself on the head for this one, because I don't get how you don't run the ball at least once on either third or fourth down.
Yeah, and here's the one thing. Even if they don't run the football, the idea that you can threaten, where you could freeze a linebacker, because the linebackers, if you look at that third down play, they were playing a little bit back. You're in shotgun, and you don't even fake the LaShawn. So as soon as the ball snaps, everybody on that defense knows it's a pass. So there is no moment of hesitation. And we all know Nick Foles works on timing. And if you ruin his timing, I mean, you're ruining the Eagles' offense moving down the field. So I don't understand why there was no threat, at least the threat of getting LaShawn the ball. And even a screen outside. So I'm still baffled by the play call. One thing I know for sure, Nick Foles has not been on the same page with Brett Selleck all season. And it's been apparent. He hasn't had one accurate throw to Selleck in the open flat. And the other thing, Riley Cooper has to do a better job, because we've seen 2 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks that could have been made by Riley go right through his hand. And I just don't understand what his problem is right now. And obviously the offensive line has been pretty beat up, and I think it's affecting LaShawn, but I also think there's more to LaShawn right now that maybe we don't know about, and maybe we're going to find out in the coming weeks, because it just seems like he doesn't have that second burst that we're normally seeing after he makes that first move.
I tweeted it out on Sunday that I expected them to run the ball on third down, and then, hey, if you couldn't pick up the 2 yards, go out there and chuck the thing on fourth down. You mentioned it sounds like a little bit of concern by you with LaShawn McCoy. Would you have put Darren Sproles on the field on fourth down? Because he's had a real sensational season so far, Kevin.
Yeah, you keep LaShawn on the field regardless. The threat of LaShawn McCoy will freeze a defense. What's wrong with putting LaShawn and Darren Sproles in the backfield together? I don't think there's any problem with that, because you're putting your 2 biggest playmakers out on the field. A defense has to account for that. I think that's what was needed. So I think Chip has some regrets. I think the entire offense is pressing. We're seeing that. We're seeing that in certain moments. And we'll see how this continues to play out. I expect things to be completely different on the home field against the Rams. And Lane Johnson, he's got a lot to make up for, because we really missed him the first 4 weeks of the season.
He certainly does, with all the injuries on the offensive side of the ball. But, Kevin, we do appreciate a few minutes today. Thanks so much. We appreciate you giving us a few moments, and let's talk to you again real soon.
Zach, my pleasure. Go Owls.